Good early morning, everyone. Um, this is our series on part two of the rays and the initiations. It's a lengthy section, but so worthwhile. And of course, it's in a way a book that DK is writing for real initiates. Many parts of it, just as he did with Cosmic Fire. And that book, maybe even more so. There's so many things given in this particular book, the fifth in the series of the Rays and Initiation series, that we cannot yet accomplish, okay? But it sets the pattern for our future, and we know the direction in which we will be working. So let us, now let's see, they're taking a look here at what we just covered at the end of number 72. We've been talking about the second initiation and the impact of the sixth ray energy, because that is the energy which is most utilized in achieving the second initiation. And he tells us, we remember, in the early days of the impact of sixth ray energy upon his, the candidates, the disciples' emotional nature, a perfect vortex of force is generated. We hear about a perfect storm, right? His emotional reactions are violent and compelling. His glamours are intensified and controlling, and his aspiration steadily mounts. Well, maybe to a degree some of us have been through this or are passing through it. It's a pretty intense stage, and we may have flashes of this, recrudescence occasionally of this kind of attitude, but is at the same time limited and hindered by the strength of his devotion to some sensed ideology. So what can we say? Whoa, that's not it, is it? That's something else. So let me just, my ever elusive brackets. So he does not see the whole picture. So the soul contact then comes in, there's a quieting, etc. The mind is used as an instrument to direct and quiet the astral body. The waters of the astral body, now subdued as in Raja Yoga, along with the mind, begins to reflect the beautiful and the true. And then, when that begins to happen, he can step into the baptismal waters. We might say that first, Mars and Pluto have to be put in their proper place. And then Venus, Jupiter, and Neptune can be utilized for this initiation. So then this the second degree to an intense purificatory experience, let's call it second degree. Okay, and there's one that I want. Second degree, an intense purificatory experience. And then, in the words of the old commentary, it tells us that this experience allows the questing disciple to forever to step out of the waters and be no longer in danger of drowning or of submergence. Yeah, he better emerge, but not in danger of drowning. He can now walk on the surface of the sea and proceed, and with safety proceed onward towards his goal. Well, the Christ demonstrated this actually, and it was a great symbol, for all of us, this ability to walk on the water, and how he taught, I think it was Peter, to walk on the water. It was a question of faith. And when he lost his faith, he began to sink. Well, we don't know what initiation Peter was passing through at the time. Maybe, in fact, it was the second degree. That would have to be researched. One day, I think it will be possible to do the biographical research on famous characters in the evolution of the New World religion and really in the evolution of any ashramic presentation, and see with impersonality what they passed through. But of course, we should do that for ourselves first. We're not totally in a position to be able to do that. And some of what we think we remember may be fantasy or supposition. It may be true, it may be fantasy. So all of that has to be sorted out. So we're in the discussion of this second initiation, which, as he tells us, thousands will take. He's not too specific about how many, but while millions, I think millions really, will be taking the first initiation, and they will emerge from the masses to take that initiation. Those who have taken the first initiation, and in most cases long ago, because there are many incarnations separating the first from the second, usually considered, they will take the second degree, a smaller number, but a necessary number. And I think we'll be able to work with spiritual intelligence and mental illumination, helping to orient humanity, and we'll be able to become true members of the new group of world servers. Usually, to be a member of that group, if we consider the matter rigorously, you have to be an initiate of the second degree. If we consider the group in a general sense, then many more who have not attained that degree are members of that group, and also some higher initiates form a kind of core or nucleus for that group. So the effect, going on now, the effect of sixth ray activity upon the mental nature is, as you may imagine, a tendency, first of all, to the crystallizing of thought, a reaction to imprisoning ideologies, and a fanatical mental adherence to mass ideals with no understanding of their relationship to the need of the time or to the intended creative aspects, and I might add, of the divine plan. Well, there was a disciple that DK used as an example. He was an advanced disciple, actually, as he was being trained for the third initiation, but he had a sixth ray personality. So one disciple, had a sixth ray, that's six ray personality, and a sixth sub-ray, that's second ray, so SBR, let's call that sub-ray, SBR, sub-ray, on each of the three personality vehicles, So at first, there is a rigidity connected with the sixth ray and a lack of realized relationship. So at first, a rigidity, and a lack of realized relationship with the whole picture. That those are represent the downside of the influence of that ray upon the various vehicles. It's such a one-pointed, rigid orientation towards something that, there's no breaking out of it, and really there's so much attention given to what it is in itself that there's no understanding of the place which the vision goal holds within the larger picture of possibilities. Later, as the disciple prepares for the second initiation, those tendencies are transformed into spiritual devotion to human welfare and to a one-pointed adherence to the plan of hierarchy. So these are very valuable. These are valuable and represent a more mature point of view, and also are a necessary part of the equipment of the disciple. He has to be one-pointed, and he has to have spiritual devotion to the plan and to the upliftment of humanity. When you think that Sagittarius, as a sign, is very much involved with the first and second initiations, he tells us so, and what a strong sixth ray sign that is, we can see the connection there between the sixth ray movement towards the second initiation and Sagittarius. All emotional reaction to the hierarchy of masters fades out, the thrill, the exhilaration, the possible ups and downs when one thinks one is considered or rejected and so forth. And the disciple can now work without being hindered by constant astral disturbances. And the hint is here that before the third degree, the disciple has too many astral disturbances. Well, in other words, from the time when the second initiation is being truly approached, and through the period of taking it, there is a reduction in the disturbances and in the general emotional reaction to the masters and to the path and to the higher possibilities. One takes these things more from a clear and mental perspective. The effect of sixth ray energy upon the integrated personality of the disciple can be described as producing a condition wherein he is definitely astral-buddhic in his nature. A condition wherein he is definitely astral-buddhic. The mind is o'erleaped, as it were. Now, of course, much depends on the other rays, the ray of the soul, and how much the mental rays are found. But we do know there is a resonance between the sixth plane, the astral plane, and the fourth plane, the Buddhic plane, and this is accentuated. So why is this accentuated? Let's say the resonance between the sixth plane and the fourth plane is accentuated, and Mars for the astral body and Neptune for at least partially for the Buddhic plane are brought into action. So Neptune is also found in relation to the watery astral plane, but whereas Mars is not found in relation to the Buddhic plane, Neptune definitely is. And these are the two important planets which we find in connection with the second initiation. Mars to be overcome and Neptune to be rightly cultivated. So Mars must be overcome in its lower aspects, and the energy of Neptune rightly cultivated. And gradually, his one-pointed emotional effort towards orientation to the soul makes him, and this, obviously from the old commentary, an aspiring point of tension, oblivious of crisis and firmly anchored in the love which streams forth from the soul. Well, this is a high achievement relatively. And, as he approaches that initiation and takes it, this is his achievement. And you can see that so many would-be disciples of the present era don't necessarily have this or these qualities fully developed. An aspiring point of tension, a rising point of tension, we might say, oblivious of crisis. It's not allowed to deflect or derail, so to speak, his aspirational efforts, and firmly anchored in the love which streams forth from the soul. So more and more, the astral body becomes a vehicle for the energy of love. And there is, that natural resonance anyway between the soul on the higher mental plane and the astral body. Just as I've said before, between the monad of the mind and the personality and the physical vehicle. So, he says now, let me sum up what I've said anent the effect of sixth-ray energy, and I suppose especially at the time of the second initiation. The energy of the sixth ray produces two major results: an embryonic realization of the will nature, which determines the life of the initiate. So there is a transition from intensely focused desire to incipient will. And when I have, when you look at how the sixth ray is put together, there's a lot of the first ray that is part of it. Matter of fact, you can find a place for all the rays when you look at the combinations of the sixth ray, the first, second, and third rays, just like the seventh ray. There's a straightness, a one-pointedness, a certain undeflectability, and a lot of this has to do with the fact that Mars, a majorly sixth-ray planet, also has a very powerful first ray, so that when the Martian energy comes in and is utilized, the first ray is there as well. And then another result, a pronounced conflict between the higher and lower and higher self. This reveals to the initiate the ancient conflict between the emotional nature and true realization. So here, this conflict implies the presence of glamour and its clearing so that realization can be had. Now, the fourth ray also produces conflict, but maybe with more tendency towards resolution. When it comes to the sixth ray, there's got to be a winner, and it should be the one who's on top. With the fourth ray, a reconciliation between the two and a gradual rising through progressive reconciliations can be achieved. So two major results here of the sixth ray in the life of the candidate, conscious or unconscious, for initiation. The embryonic realization of the will nature. And, that is interesting because from the time, from the period that one is approaching the second initiation, one can really study what the will is all about. I'm thinking about that sixth petal and its association in one way with Pisces and with Virgo, a kind of a not my will but thine be done arrangement. And Pisces, we know, has a lot of first ray in it, and so does Virgo with the veiling moon covering Vulcan. With Pisces, it's Pluto. So there is a relinquishment of many personal desires there and an understanding of the role of the will nature in this. And then a pronounced conflict between higher and lower self. I'm sure we're all aware of that, and at a certain time the soul has to win. And DK tells us that sometimes it's easier in an older body for the soul to prevail. So each one of us can be the judge of whether that is so. This brings about a basic reorientation of the life of the initiate and of humanity as a whole. We might say towards higher objectives and not towards ordinary or towards that which ordinary desire reveals. Okay, now that what we just read applies to the individual and to humanity as well. In connection with humanity, now he becomes more specific here, the effects of the sixth ray are as follows. The development of a tendency to clarify the world atmosphere, thus releasing the energy of goodwill. So here we have the possibility of dissipating glamour. And as I've said before, in the glamour group, or the observers of reality, or the second group which he organized, everybody had some area in which of their energy system in which the sixth ray entered, some pronouncedly so, and I'm thinking of one man who was a stabilizing influence in the whole group, and his rays were, except for one, were very much unlike the sixth ray. 1, 5, 5, okay, soul 1, personality 5, mind 5, but the astral body was 6. And then the physical body was 7. And of course, he had other qualifications from the past, which made it possible for him to work in this way. So, the work that we are specifically to do has a lot to do with our ray structure. And, studying DK's books along these lines, we really see how specialized work can become according to the ray structure. So, clarifying the world atmosphere, dissipating glamour. So, this is, seeing the clouds somehow, and I disperse the clouds. Isn't that? It's either Italy or Spain. One of those two countries. I could go on a search now, but it's one of those two. Has the motto, I disperse the clouds, and both of them have six ray souls, both of those countries. Okay, what else? When the sixth ray applies to humanity. The production of a condition wherein the race of men can take either the first or the second initiation. We have to remember that much devotion also precedes the taking of the first initiation. The sudden and powerful, so this is coming, right? So really, we need the sixth ray. It will be in incarnation during the 21st century, still in incarnation during, the 21st century, and overall, and in a larger cycle, very much in incarnation. If you think about it, 21,000 years is a long time, and it has that much time left to run. All right. The sudden and powerful emergence of world ideologies, if you look around now, let's just say now people are fervently believing in some ideal or other, and they may be very different from each other. So, there was such a long time when one looked at what is called, communism and compared it to fascism. There was a battle about that. Communism and democracy. There was a Cold War about that. Fascism and democracy. There was a huge battle about that. So these ideals, rather than being seen as aspects of a whole picture, are used to divide people. And because they cannot see the place of the other ideal in the larger picture, they go to war to defend their own. Well, this is happening right now in the United States with its sixth-ray personality. It's an ideologically divided country at this time. Of course, maybe some of you will be listening to this in the future, and all of that will have been resolved. What else for a sixth-ray effect upon humanity? A basic transformation within the astral plane itself, which is producing points of crisis and points of tension. So higher objectives are seen and contrast with the lower desires. And thus a battle scene emerges. So we don't know the technicalities of these transformations, but if there is a tendency for humanity to rise in its subplane focus, then the contrast with those who do not will cause friction. But of course, as far as the metaphysical technicalities of what happens in this kind of transformation, we don't know the details. So when the sixth ray is applied to humanity, these are the results. Now, so the very first point was about both, it was a general point, and it was about the sixth ray effect on everybody, the initiate and humanity and so forth. The second ray focused specifically on humanity, and the second point. And now the third point will focus on the individual initiate. And I guess, each one of us has to be interested in that too, as well as with the larger picture. We have to live that dual life, the dual life in many ways, above and below, and the whole and the part, and we find general discrepancies, and we have to attend to both of them. So an acute situation wherein a vortex of force is generated. So, this is very disturbing, and maybe as much disturbing to others as to oneself. Well, we all know what it's like when fanaticism takes over and the glamour of interruption is prevalent, and how much interference there is when the sixth ray type thinks that only its point of view is the important point of view and begins to interrupt the spiritual festival of others in order to impose its point of view. In this vortex, all the emotional and ideological reactions of the aspirant are intensified. So this is, we have to remember something here. The sixth ray is called the, something like this, the ray of undue intensity. So we have to moderate our intensity with respect to others so that they can get on with their task without being disturbed or interrupted by the intensity generated by the sixth ray type. Later, when this subsides, I guess all storms have to subside, the initiate's alignment becomes astral-mental-soul. As different from the soul-mind-brain, which is the final and more desirable alignment that maybe occurs at the third degree when the astral body is beginning to be seen as an unreality, at least in its present form. So, do we know people with the astral-mental-soul alignment? It doesn't seem to include the physical plane very much, does it? And DK tells us how under the six-ray regime, the physical plane has been ignored, and it has become quite a mess. So when the seventh ray comes in, all of that will be restored to some degree of order. Point D, there takes place in connection with his mental vehicle a crystallization of all thoughts and a fanatical adherence to mass idealism. Maybe we can say that some kind of unthinking patriotism is an example. That doesn't mean one should not be a patriot, because one has to defend the sole expression of one's country. But it's this way. My how can I do this? My country, right or wrong, or in a way we can say my anything, right or wrong. So the unthinking intense devotion comes first, and not the evaluation of the position with respect to others of that to which one is devoted. So a crystallization, that's always the issue there. And, interestingly enough, the first ray is also a ray of crystallization leading to death, because that which is crystallized is more easily shattered, is not supple, cannot adapt to the changing conditions. So, that ongoing connection between the first and sixth ray can produce the greatest amount of destruction, great destructive power, plus the blind devotion and fanaticism, disregard of the whole, and the consequences, disregard of consequences. So when the sixth ray is fanatical, there is a disregard for consequences. And then, a real situation can be caused on the physical plane or whatever plane that energy is applied to, and a disorder can result. Disorder can result, and then the seventh ray has to step in and do something about it. These tendencies are later transformed into spiritual devotion to human welfare. Okay, this is a summary. And the fanaticism of the personality abates. It quiets. And so the people on the sixth ray, I've been one of them, I'm sure, almost seem normal at a certain point. Anyway, the personality becomes definitely astral-buddhic in nature and expression. And what does that mean? That love and inclusiveness are expressed through the emotions. Now, how much thinking there will be, how much mentality, it all depends on the rays and, the inner maturity of the individual. But we live in an astral-buddhic solar system right now. And our orientation, when compared to the orientation of other solar systems, is quite Davic, and the conscious Davic units are outnumbering those we call, men, by 2 1/3 to 1, 140 billion versus 60 billion. So there's a tendency on our planet towards astral-buddhic alignment. Our planet, though, is not strictly astral-buddhic. It's eventually going to be quite a balanced planet with a first-ray monad, second-ray soul, and third-ray personality. All right. So then DK has given us this summary of what happens when the sixth ray is applied to the, what does it say here? To the individual initiate. Acute situation, intensification, some people are so intense it's hard to be with them. And, we even if we're not that way now, we probably recapitulated that in our lives. Astral-mental-soul alignment, crystallization of all thought, this question of trying to convince people who are influenced by the sixth ray that their particular rigid point of view may not be the whole thing. We've had experience there. Spiritual devotion to human welfare, and the personality becoming definitely astral-buddhic. Well, we should be on the lookout for such individuals, or maybe we'll be looking in the mirror and we'll find ourselves to be one such individual. But usually, in those students that adhere to a study of Master DK, who is a highly mental master, and I guess wants to teach people how to think occultly, these stages, the stage we're now talking about, is not forever retained. And many people who are at this stage, they kind of reject the manner in which Master DK teaches because it's, quote, so mental, But if a careful examination of what he really offers will show how well balanced it is and how much heart he has and how much zeal and devotion he has. He has all those things. But there is a mental demand, and there are stages of evolution in which that mental demand is rejected. It's just not the tendency and too hard to use the mind in that way. You will see, therefore, how immediate and important is the opportunity confronting humanity today. Vast numbers of men, I guess in the millions, will take the first step towards the unfolding of the Christ consciousness and thus pass through the first initiation. This is coming up, and it must precede the reappearance. So this must precede the reappearance. This often, I might well say usually, takes place without the conscious realization of the physical brain. Okay, so we have to be cautious in how we evaluate all this. People may be in many different fields of constructive endeavor and far indeed from the technicalities of occultism, and yet they will demonstrate those qualities which show they have passed or are passing through the first initiation. They want to beautify their lives. They want to study spirituality. They want to, in general, improve their situation. They have high aspirations, and they're bringing the physical body under a reasonable amount of control. The instinctual nature is not allowed to run the show. So without the conscious realization of the physical brain, and with these first couple of initiations, and for some people even with the third, the inner ceremony is forgotten, and one may have to be reminded of it. The first initiation is and always has been mass initiation, even when individually registered and recorded. This is an interesting idea, so it's available to many. It's experienced as being taken within oneself because there is a kind of a self-dramatized inner ceremony which shows one as the principal focus of the ceremony, and yet, there may be more or less at the same time many others taking this initiation. So always a mass initiation. Thousands of aspirants in every country as a result of the conscious effort to understand. This is a requirement. Here is a requirement. Will stand before the initiator, in this case the Christ, again, to undergo the baptism initiation, where in vast numbers for the first initiation, thousands of aspirants as an effort to understand, because here's a requirement. We need spiritual intelligence and mental illumination. And he mentions those two qualities, seemingly regardless of the rays that are conditioning. Well, it is a time when the throat center is stimulated, and that will bring in the intelligence factor. In both of the initiations, first and second, the heart is stimulated, and also there is a transference from the sacral to the throat center, and that becomes much more complete at the second degree because those mental states have to be achieved. So thousands of aspirants in every country. Think of it. We have 200 countries. Well, maybe not all of them will produce the same number of candidates. I mean, probably the more developed countries with a greater educational system will stand before the initiator and undergo the baptism initiation. Bread and water are the symbols of the first two initiation. Amazing. It used to be the fare you would receive if you were going to prison, bread and water. My parents always threatened me with that, maybe I was a badly behaved little boy, I'm not sure. But you're just going to go off to reform school and you're going to eat bread and water. Well, now these two symbols come back on a higher turn of the spiral. And I'm eager for that rather than warned and wary. Both are basic essentials for life. Bread is the staff of life, and without water, we just dehydrate and life becomes impossible. Both are basic essentials for life in the physical sense and are equally basic in their implications spiritually. Bread and water. This the initiate knows. And, of course, the horoscopes at these times may reflect these possibilities. At these times may reflect these possibilities of initiation. These two initiations are the only two of significant importance at this time, owing to their relative immediacy. The Aquarian age is a long age. I mean, long when we think of it. How many incarnations have we had in the Piscean age? And here the Aquarian age has not really begun yet. And we have at least 2,000 years to deal with, maybe a bit more. So the immediacy is there in the Aquarian age. And maybe more in the age of Capricorn, which comes, let's just say 2,300 years from now. There'll be an overlap period, of course. more of the third initiation will be offered. I mean, Aquarius does offer the third initiation, no question about that. It's one of the signs in which you can take the third initiation, but Capricorn is the sign most closely associated with the third initiation. So during a precessional period, when Capricorn dominates, we can imagine that the third initiation will be relatively immediate at that time. When Capricorn dominates during the age of, let's put it that way, age of Capricorn, maybe 2,300 years or so from now, the third initiation will be more immediate and prominent. Meanwhile, there's a lot to prepare for. Just imagine when, materialistically inclined humanity turns towards these higher possibilities. We can expect really positive changes in society. Of course, we can expect also a kind of inner turmoil for the individual and subjective, psychological, and also outer turmoil for the race of men. There will be a struggle. I mean, we look at what the Master Hilarion of St. Paul went through as a Scorpio person, and he had a great struggle. Scorpio, the sign connected with the second initiation mostly, but others as well. And this will characterize society, but there will be a more intelligent understanding of what religion and spirituality really are. And towards that we can only hope and aspire, because there's so much immaturity now in the attempt to understand the metaphysics of life. Where did I come from? What am I supposed to be doing, and where am I going? These are not widely understood, and very narrow solutions to that kind of question are ruling the mass mind. And those have to be broken up. DK tells us that all the three Abrahamic religions are obsolete now. That form of Christianity, Judaism, Islam, all of that derive from more or less the same source, but the presentations are obsolete. So people within them have to awaken to that fact, and probably deeply subconsciously realizing they're adhering to an obsolete pattern. They force the presumption of relevance even more strongly, and that will precipitate the disintegration of that particular form of understanding the relationship between man and the higher possibilities. It is the return of the Christ which has brought these subjective spiritual tendencies of mankind to the surface and made these two initiations possible. That's interesting. So the Christ as the percipitator of initiatory possibilities. And maybe he foresaw this in the Garden of Gethsemane when he looked ahead, I think, towards the particular period through which we are now passing. I think he saw what humanity would be and become if he did not extend his bodhisattvic period of service into another processional age. And he also saw the opportunity that would come if he did. The opportunity for humanity and for the general preservation of our planet, our globe. It is the activity of the seventh ray of order and of the sixth ray of idealism which has generated the tendency in humanity towards the white magic of human relations. It's a great ideal, It's an inclusive ideal. It's the idealism of the hierarchy. And I just have to say this, note that the sixth ray is included in this white magical process. They have fostered the trend to ideological control of the human consciousness, great thought forms or ideal forms. Maybe the whole idea is not there, but some aspect of it is, which we can become devoted to. So great directions towards goals control the human consciousness. Great paths or directions towards specific goals now control human consciousness. It is the passing out of the Piscean age with its type of energy, I think by the end of this 21st century, and the coming into power of the Aquarian age. It's already here, at least the energy is here, with its potent purificatory energies and its quality of synthesis and universality, which makes the New World Order possible. So basically he's talking about the relationship of Aquarius and the New World Order. Okay. New World Order possible. And this, think about Aquarius, there's many things to think about, but it is potently purificatory, has the quality of synthesis and universality. And these are very distinguishing features of that particular energy. What's the age of Aquarius all about? People may ask, and here are three things to tell them. There's a cleansing. There's a gathering together. There's a relationship to much larger spheres of knowledge and of activity made possible by the sign. It is therefore apparent that the opportunity confronting humanity has never been so promising, and that the corporate relation and fusion of all these energies make the manifestation of the sons of God and the appearance of the kingdom of God an inevitable happening in our planetary life. So the inevitability of great fusions and emergences. Maybe not emergencies, but emergences. So the opportunity confronting humanity has never been so promising. And the relationship between all these factors, there's so many factors coming together. I mean, if you study the energies and the timing, let's say, study the energies and the timing of their appearance to see what tremendous opportunity is offered for real progress in our planetary life and in the human race. Okay, I think that's another one we should have, HMR, and that's the human race. Okay, so naturally, the forces of opposition would gather at such a time and before the threshold of possibility and seek to obstruct the passing through into what DK calls the wonders of the new age. And we're right in that period right now when the forces of opposition are making their last-ditch stand. They didn't really give up after the Second World War. In various ways, the door was left ajar, the door to where evil dwells, and they could still creep through. And they have, and they've reestablished themselves. And, the magical formula is 1, 2, 3. Well, in this third encounter with the forces of evil, they really have to be driven back onto the astral plane They will be conquered eventually completely, but the ethers and the physical plane have to be cleansed of their influence. Then what they produce will become more psychological matter and will not be so disruptive of the outer life of humanity. All right. Well, I think we're coming pretty close here to the end of this particular section. As we study the other ray energies and their initiatory effect, we shall not be able to indicate a great deal in relation to humanity itself. And basically, this is a question of not yet. But the first two are imminent, at least in terms of the time sense which the masters possess. And really, although we cannot tell exactly when the Christ will reappear and are not supposed to speculate too intently and mislead other people thereby, we do know there is an imminence to all of this. Certain things have to be achieved, and definite plans for the first stages of the real externalization will, we are told, in all probability be laid at the great conclave of 2025. So much has to be decided in these next 8 years, and every disciple is really sorely needed. No matter how small our scope may be in our own eyes, we are needed. So we take that to heart and we persist. Only the first two initiations, which are implemented by the Christ, he as the initiator, and which are under the supervisory probation of the spiritual hierarchy, are as yet possible for humanity. Later, when the one initiator, Sanat Kumara is the initiator, Shambhala has more to do with it. So, but this is what we're passing through, the first and second, and we're either passing through ourselves or in a position, perhaps as established members of the new group of world servers, to help assist, guide those who are passing through. The initiation of the transfiguration is not yet for the mass of men, and I hinted that maybe more would be taken in to this possibility during the age of Capricorn, but even during the age of Aquarius, it's a very strong possibility because there's such a universality in the sign Aquarius that it is frequently associated also, like Capricorn, with the third degree. So not for the mass of men yet. We can, however, study the effects of these rays where the individual disciple is concerned, because the later initiations from the third initiation onward are administered by the Lord of the world from his high place in Shambhala. It doesn't mean that the causal body of the one to be initiated ascends to Shambhala, but that the Lord of the world can extend himself proximate to the causal field, which must be operated upon in an initiatory manner through his particular rod of initiation, the flaming diamond. In the present world period, these initiations are individually administered and registered and are undergone consciously and with an entirely awakened awareness. Now, these are the, what should we say, he is speaking of the symbolically related initiations, and not the ones supervised by hierarchy, which are so often forgotten in the brain consciousness. So individually administered, but also elsewhere. There's always an elsewhere with Master DK. He speaks of the small group nature of some of these higher initiations. I told the story that when I was going through Masonry, it was a popular time in the 70s, and there were always more applicants than they had initiatory possibilities to process. So we would go through in small groups. It was a good lesson about shared focus. And, in our responses, we have to share which responses different persons gave. So that was a harbinger of things to come in this day and age of group initiation, from the third initiation onward, although I imagine that as we go higher and higher in the initiatory possibilities, fewer and fewer, or smaller and smaller, are the groups. Well, I think we're at that point, friends. Very interesting material. We're still, somewhat studying the second initiation. So this is the end of Rays and Initiations webinar commentary number 73. And what was it page 582? I hope so. I tell myself what page I began on, and then I forget it. Okay, 582, and where are we now? From 582 to 585. Okay, so this is the end of that, and our day is the 20th of February. We're into Pisces, and we will continue beginning of Rays and Initiation webinar commentary number 74, and from 585 onward. What day? I cannot say. Could be today, could be tomorrow. I do my best to keep these going, despite a very busy schedule in other ways, because I think it's very important for us to study together and study slowly and carefully, so that we really pay attention literally to every word the Master has written. He always tells us we should read more carefully. Well, I'm not saying that I fulfill the ideal there, but I am saying that this particular type of format forces us all really to dwell with the words that Master DK has offered us. Okay, so that will be it for the moment, and we'll see you for number 74. Thank you for being present and for thinking along with me about these great subjects. See you later. Bye-bye.